My name is Elizabeth Benser, and I'm in the Faculty of Resource and Environment Management at SFU, and I am a master's candidate. I did my undergrad at the University of Waterloo in environmental studies and biology, and I wanted to move out to BC and come to SFU to pursue a master's degree, but I was really passionate about specifically working on the western skink as a species. So the western skink is a special species in BC because they're one of only 2 lizard species that exists today in BC, one being the western skink and the other one is the northern alligator lizard. So they are significant because they contribute to the biodiversity of our province. Reptiles as a guild are not really well represented across Canada, so these are one of very few species that we're fortunate enough to have in our province and our country. We went out together last week in April and we were looking for skinks. This was in the Vaso Bighorn National Wildlife Area, and this is a really good habitat for the skinks to be. Skinks really love areas that don't have too much tree cover, so not too much shade. They like getting direct sunlight. They like southwest facing slopes where you get a lot of that warm afternoon sun coming in. They like habitats that have abundant cover for them to hide from predators and also forage. So areas like talus slopes and basically slopes that have like a lot of loose cover that they can hide underneath. Not too much grass, things like that. Those are all really good habitats for skinks. Western skinks have this fantastic cobalt blue colored tail, and biologists think it's probably a way to attract predators and distract them. So if a predator is coming after a western skink, they go for the tail instead of going for the body. And once a predator grabs onto the tail, a skink is able to drop the tail, so it breaks off at a certain point. It doesn't have to be the entire tail. I've seen a couple times where they've just lost the tip of their tail, so the tail comes off completely and the skink is allowed to escape and get away unharmed for the most part because they can completely regenerate their tail. The ones that we found, only one of them had a slightly blue tail on the tip. The other 2 didn't have blue tails at all, so they were definitely adults, and it's not completely uncommon to find skinks that don't have blue tails. The majority of them do have the bright blue tail though. As far as my methods go for my fieldwork, I start out in an area that I've defined beforehand on my map. I know which area I'm going to. So I go out and I basically just start flipping rocks that look good. And as soon as I've found a skink, I'll stop, take a GPS coordinate of where the skink was, which also tells me the elevation that I'm at too. And then I take a look at the rock that they were found under. I identify the substrate type that it was on. Was it on vegetation? Was it sitting on top of another rock? Was it on bare soil? And then I do a whole bunch of other measurements such as slope angle, aspect, which is which direction it's facing. I measure the length, width, thickness, and the depth that the rock is embedded in the soil. And then I also take weather measurements as well. Fieldwork on a species like this can definitely be discouraging, especially when you're lifting 200, 300 rocks at a time and not finding anything. It can get a little depressing after a little while. But there's always the hope that you can find another skink under that next rock, and once you do find that skink, it makes the last several hours of hard work all worth it. Finding that individual is awesome. It just makes your day every time. And I just try to keep in my mind that even the rocks that I flip where I'm not finding anything, I'm still getting really good data on the species, and it's still contributing to the body of scientific literature out there about them. The western skink was listed as special concern by the federal government in 2002. Some of the main threats that are facing the western skink are urban development, agricultural development, mostly in the Okanagan region, which is the fastest developing region in the province. So all of these things are contributing to the fragmentation of the western skink's habitat cutting off populations from each other so they can't disperse and mingle, and creating genetic isolation of populations, and just decreasing useful habitat overall. I absolutely love western skinks. I can't talk enough about them. I think they're a really awesome species, really deserve the attention of conservationists and the public as well. It's just something I've really been passionate about ever since I found out that they existed. I think reptiles as a guild really need people who are, champions, who go out and really advocate for the species and are really passionate about them specifically and like to get things done. So I'd really like to be that person in BC.